Volunteer Management in the Emergency Operations Center. Welcome to a just-in-time training based on the Bay Area Catastrophic Earthquake Volunteer Management Plan. During times of disaster, history has taught us that there will be no shortage of people wanting to help in their community. Volunteers serve as an essential addition to the field response and help save valuable government resources. As the volunteer coordinator in the EOC, you are responsible to help manage volunteer requests and assignments in times of disaster. You will work with a team of people inside and outside of the EOC to accomplish your job. You've checked in, received the appropriate vest, and been assigned a workspace. You may not have worked in an EOC before, or maybe you are not familiar with volunteer management. That is okay. There are resources and people that will help you be successful. Although this time is stressful, the EOC team will work with you for a smooth response and expedient recovery. During this 20-minute just-in-time training, we will introduce your core responsibilities and how to prioritize objectives within the first 60 days following an event. This just-in-time training is one in a series based on the 8 Bay Area catastrophic earthquake plans. The introductory video includes basic EOC responsibilities and an introduction to the Standardized Emergency Management System, or SEMS.
If you're new to the EOC, one of the best places to get information that's going to allow you to do your function more effectively is to look at the resources that have been given to you, especially a job checklist that details your roles and responsibilities. Talk to your section chief, the people that you work for. They'll help guide you and prioritize your efforts for the most part. And then also, you can also reach out to your local emergency manager, the local Office of Emergency Services staff. They've got a wealth of information, and even if they don't have an immediate answer for you, they know exactly where to turn to.
Whether you are in an EOC during the first, second, or third time period of the disaster response, it may be helpful to refer to the Bay Area Regional Catastrophic Earthquake Volunteer Management Plan or your local government volunteer management plan as you watch this training. You can also reference California Emergency Functions 17 Volunteer and Donations Management Annex for help. California Volunteers is the lead state agency for EF17 and can be contacted at www.californiavolunteers.org. This training focuses on the role of a volunteer coordinator in an EOC. Keep in mind that your role might be slightly different based on your level of government. Stick around to test your knowledge of volunteer coordination in an EOC with a quiz at the end of this video. As a volunteer coordinator in the EOC, you will match volunteer interests with response and recovery needs. Your responsibilities include communication and coordination, resource management, information management, and assisting with public information. Always consider people with disabilities and others with access and functional needs as you carry out these responsibilities.
The volunteer coordinator is responsible for a variety of different functions in the Emergency Operations Center. Probably the primary one is communicating and coordinating with all different levels of government, as well as non-governmental organizations, including nonprofits, faith-based organizations, the private sector.
Communication and coordination refers to your role as the link between government and volunteer partners. As the volunteer coordinator in the EOC, you should facilitate coordination of volunteer field assignments between government agencies and volunteer partners. First, we will discuss coordination with government agencies. Depending on the level of government you represent, you will interact with your counterparts in other government agencies as appropriate, including field operations, and in EOCs at the local government, operational area, and regional levels, the State Operations Center, or SOC, and the Joint Field Office, or JFO, where federal resource coordination occurs. In some situations, you may be the sole volunteer management representative, but this doesn't mean you will work alone. There may be a volunteer unit in your section or branch. Often, this position is in the logistics section, yet it could be positioned in another section or branch based on your EOC. You will also work directly with other branch and section staff within your EOC and EOCs at other levels of government. For example, the Donations Management Unit within the Logistics section may contact you for volunteer resources to help support coordination or distribution of donations. Don't be afraid to ask your colleagues questions when you need help. Keep in mind where you sit and who you might communicate with may be different given the EOC that you work in. You will also communicate and coordinate with partners beyond the EOC regarding volunteer management. You may find agency and partner contact information in a designated EOC binder, or you can ask your section chief. Some key partners include California Volunteers, non-governmental organizations or NGOs, and Emergency Volunteer Centers or EVCs.
California Volunteers locates right here at the State Operations Center during a disaster so that we can be the entity that can assist with the coordination of volunteers and donations.
California Volunteers works at the state level. They may request volunteer-related information directly from the operational areas and local government.
Non-governmental organizations include both faith-based and other nonprofit organizations, as well as the private sector businesses.
NGOs that you are likely to work with include organizations like the Food Bank, American Red Cross, and the Salvation Army. They often coordinate their own teams of affiliated volunteers. An affiliated volunteer is an individual who is specifically trained and closely managed by an NGO or local government. Local government coordinates affiliated volunteers such as Community Emergency Response Teams, Medical Reserves Corps, and Fire Corps. Some NGOs have a seat in other EOC branches or units such as Mass Care and Shelter. Always look to colleagues in your EOC to help familiarize you with these NGO partners. In California, many NGOs are organized into VOADs at the local and state level.
VOAD stands for Voluntary Organizations Active in Disaster. So it's actually a network or a membership organization of all of these different types of organizations that play key roles in disaster. In many cases, they will send a representative or a liaison to the EOC.
If there is not a VOAD liaison, contact the American Red Cross representative in your EOC's Care and Shelter branch. Business partners in the private sector may also be able to provide valuable volunteer resources.
Many companies have volunteers that can help to staff and distribute the commodities or to help coordinate that distribution in the Emergency Operations Center.
Look to the private sector EOC representatives for help connecting with partners. It is essential to coordinate with NGOs first, so that you can access skilled and trained volunteers. However, keep in mind that the vast majority of volunteers are spontaneous volunteers. These are individuals that are not affiliated with a response or relief agency or pre-registered with an accredited disaster council. Spontaneous volunteers simply show up and express a desire to be of assistance. Emergency volunteer centers in the field are designed to manage the influx of spontaneous volunteers.
The Emergency Volunteer Center is really your clearinghouse for matching the volunteer opportunities, what needs to get done, with the potential volunteers who want to contribute their time.
I think it's important for a volunteer coordinator in the EOC to understand that an EVC has a very specific role. It is not the destination for volunteers to actually volunteer. It's a way station, if you will. It processes those volunteers out to where the needs are greatest.
EVCs refer spontaneous volunteers to government organizations and NGOs to help support their affiliated volunteer teams. Keep in mind an EVC may be set up in one of three ways: a physical location, as a call center, or as an online system. Emergency Volunteer Center managers are trained to stay in close contact with local EOCs to ensure coordination between all levels of government. Let's review what we learned about communication and coordination. As an EOC volunteer coordinator, you need to identify and regularly communicate with the designated partners beyond your EOC regarding volunteer management. Stay in contact with California volunteers at the REOC or SOC. Build a connection with VOADs, NGOs, and their affiliated volunteers in and outside of the EOC. Ensure that you are aware of and have a communication line with any established EVCs through either local or operational area EOCs. And lastly, coordinate with private sector businesses. Resource management involves brokering various types of requests that go both directions. It is likely that in your role, you will make requests to other levels of government and also respond to requests that you receive.
When you're in Field Operations Command, the Emergency Operations Center is sort of your phone a friend, if you will. You need them to be able to give you the information that you don't have. Probably the easiest one is resources, right? Whether it's personnel or stuff.
It is your responsibility to attempt to fulfill requests by seeking out resources within your jurisdiction first. Turn to the logistics section to help guide you to available resources. If resources are not available at your jurisdiction, you may make requests to higher levels of government by completing and submitting an EOC resource request form. Ask your section chief where to access your EOC's resource request form. It is likely that you will need to fulfill requests from lower-level EOCs. Additionally, requests for volunteers will come from within the EOC, from the operations section, or other sections requesting volunteer resources. There may be many types of requests the volunteer coordinator will fulfill. Resources requested could include staff, supplies, or facilities. For example, in a flood, the operations section might request volunteers for sandbagging, or the Mass Care and Shelter Unit may request volunteers to help with translation at specific shelter locations. As the volunteer coordinator in the EOC, you should work with EVCs to deploy volunteers to their field assignments. You will work with the local EVC to fulfill requests for volunteers and may provide coordination support to ensure volunteers receive appropriate training. You may be asked to provide guidance on the registration of disaster service worker volunteers. Most jurisdictions require volunteers engaged in government response to be sworn in as DSW volunteers. Please ask your section chief or EOC management how your EOC is managing DSW volunteers. To learn more about DSW requirements, go to the Cal OES website. You may also be asked to fulfill requests to support volunteers with disabilities and others with access and functional needs.
You gotta find experts on access and functional needs who can help you make good decisions, but most importantly, help you get the resources that you're gonna need to respond properly and thinking of the short and the long-term processes that you have to deal with.
Contact the Cal OES Office for Access and Functional Needs for help on how to fulfill these requests. Let's review what we learned about resource management. As an EOC volunteer coordinator, you will receive requests from the field and other levels of government for volunteers. To fulfill these requests for volunteers, you will use the EOC resource request forms. You may use resource request forms to support EVC facilities, supplies, and staff requests. During a disaster, information management is critical. As a volunteer coordinator, you will be responsible to compile and share a variety of information. You will need to track the number and type of volunteers that are being requested from various levels of government, as well as other partners. This includes collecting information regarding volunteers that might be needed with a particular skill set. As an EOC volunteer coordinator, you will also need to track the number of EVC locations, including any new openings or closures. Document the number of spontaneous volunteers who have contacted these EVCs and any additional data the EVC manager has collected, such as the types of volunteer opportunities available. You should also track where volunteers have been deployed and the types and number of opportunities they filled by staying in close contact with volunteer partner organizations and participating in local and regional conference calls. This information is used for situation or status reports, typically completed within the logistics section, and for public information to be delivered by a public information officer and through the Joint Information Center. Let's review the essentials of information management. Regularly communicate with internal and external partners to collect necessary information. Track essential information such as numbers, needs, and fulfillment of volunteer requests. Data you collect will be used for status reports and public information. The public will need to know information about volunteering immediately after an incident. As an EOC volunteer coordinator, you are responsible to provide accurate and timely information to the Public Information Officer, or PIO, who is responsible for message delivery to the public. Depending on your EOC, you may also send this information to the Joint Information Center, or JIC.
The volunteer coordinators will likely be providing talking points or contributing to press releases, but public information is really a key responsibility of everybody in the EOC through the Public Information Officer and the Joint Information Center.
Here are examples of public messages that you may need to provide to the PIO.
Volunteers should not self-deploy and should always practice safety first. Individuals who want to volunteer should contact their local emergency volunteer center to find out where and how they can help. Especially needed at this time are volunteers with specific skills or training, such as food preparation, translation, or a commercial driver's license.
Look for templates for a variety of pre-scripted public messages in the local, operational area, and regional volunteer management plans. Let's review your role as an EOC volunteer coordinator in getting information out to the public. Contact the PIO and the JIC to coordinate critical messages. Locate message templates and modify pre-scripted messages as appropriate. Look to your plan's response timeline as a guideline for prioritizing objectives within each disaster response time period. As the volunteer coordinator, you will work closely with other EOC branches, such as operations and logistics, who will initiate and request the need for volunteers. Operational response is focused on the first 60 days following an event, broken into 3 distinct time periods: the first 3 days or 72 hours, day 4 through 14, and the 6-week span between day 15 and day 60. Priorities within the first 3 days include assessing the situation, establishing a system, and identifying volunteer needs. Core objectives for the first time period include establishing the volunteer coordination function, gathering information on EVC activations and volunteer opportunities, sharing information with government agencies and non-governmental organizations, coordinating with the Public Information Officer and Joint Information Center to develop consistent public messaging regarding volunteering, supporting EVC operations using the EOC Resource Request System. During days 4 through 14, management of resource requests becomes your primary focus, and you will need to prioritize them appropriately. The number of volunteers will peak and will be best organized through emergency volunteer centers. Core objectives for the second time period include continuing to gather information regarding outstanding volunteer needs and the use of volunteers, continuing to coordinate with the Public Information Officer and Joint Information Center to develop consistent public messaging regarding volunteering, addressing resource requests from other EOC sections for spontaneous and affiliated volunteers, accounting for volunteers with disabilities and others with access and functional needs, coordinating closely with government agencies, non-governmental organizations, and internal EOC sections. During days 15 to 60, priorities include communication and coordination with other organizations, including NGOs, for long-term solutions to continue meeting requests for volunteers. Keep in mind, the function of volunteer coordination following a catastrophic event may continue for a number of months or years beyond the demobilization of the EOC. Core objectives for the third time period include continuing to gather information regarding ongoing needs for volunteers, tracking the number of volunteers deployed, and compiling data regarding volunteer assignments for reports to EOC command staff, continuing to coordinate with the Public Information Officer and Joint Information Center to develop consistent public messaging regarding volunteer opportunities, continuing to coordinate closely with government agencies, non-governmental organizations, and internal EOC sections to address requests for volunteers, preparing to demobilize the EOC volunteer unit and support transition of the EVC into the recovery phase. Refer to your supervisor in the EOC for a volunteer coordinator checklist to help you establish appropriate priorities and objectives during your EOC assignment. An example checklist, such as the one shown here, may be found in your plan. Volunteer coordination is vitally important to Bay Area response efforts following a catastrophic event.
We're in it together, and that while we each have a role in an emergency operations center, we really do and absolutely need to operate as a team.
It's just relax. You're going to have a well-defined job. There are people there who are going to tell you what you need to do and how to do it, and just don't be overwhelmed by what you see and the situation.
As a result of this introductory training, you should take away a better understanding of your role as a volunteer coordinator in an emergency operations center. Here are some resource references to learn more about how volunteer coordination works at various government levels. These include Volunteer and Donations Management Annex to the National Response Framework, State Emergency Operations Plan, Emergency Function 17 Volunteer and Donations Management Annex, Volunteer Coordinator Position Guidance, Bay Area Regional Catastrophic Earthquake Volunteer Management Plan, Local and Operational Area Volunteer Management Plans. For more information, visit your local Emergency Management Office or Office of Emergency Services. Let's test your understanding of the role of a volunteer coordinator in an EOC. You've just walked into the EOC. Who do you turn to for help getting oriented and learning more about your priorities as the volunteer coordinator? A. EOC Director. B. Logistics Section Chief. C. Operations Section Chief. D. Public Information Officer. Most EOCs have the volunteer unit within the logistics section. Your section chief can provide you with a volunteer checklist and other tools you will need to carry out your responsibilities. What does an emergency volunteer center do? A. Provide tasks for volunteers to do at the EVC site. B. Directs volunteers to the local fire station for assignment. C. Coordinates and deploys volunteers to volunteer opportunities. D. Works directly with the SOC to coordinate volunteers. An EVC coordinates and deploys volunteers to volunteer opportunities. It is not the site for volunteer tasks. The EVC may be a physical location, or it may be operated via a call center or website. What types of resource requests can you expect as a volunteer coordinator in the EOC? A. Volunteers. B. EVC staff. C. Supplies. D. Facilities. E. All of the above. Volunteers, EVC staff, supplies, and facilities are all potential requests you may receive to support the volunteer function in the field. As the volunteer coordinator, you have already collected information about the type and locations of volunteer opportunities to document how volunteers save the government money. What additional information should you collect? A. Number of volunteers deployed. B. NGO locations. C. EVC information. D. A and C. It is important to document the number of volunteers that have been deployed into the field and track details about the number of EVCs, their locations, and how to best contact them for updates. Thank you for taking the time to test your knowledge about volunteer management in the EOC.